You're listening to the Ritual Nurse Podcast, where healing meets humor, science, and a touch of magic. Welcome to Season 2. I cannot believe those words are coming out of my mouth. I'm super excited. Season 1 was incredible to record, absolutely incredible to experience and learn from. And Season 2, I can't explain to you how excited I am. We have so much planned. There's an incredible roadmap, working with the guests that are going to be on the podcast for the season. It's just going to be incredible. But before we can get into all that, I need to take you back and tell you a little bit more about me and why this is so significant. So it was 2021, early, like January, February-ish. I responded to a code blue during the middle of course, one of our worst pandemic waves, and was injured, physically injured. I downplayed it at first because, that's what we do. That's what we always do. You just kind of laugh, you shrug it off, go back to charting. In my case, you handle the fallout from the code blue, you handle everything afterwards. Of course, you have to help the family through it if they're available. And given that it was the pandemic, all of it fell on my shoulders. And it's probably about, 6 hours all in all, a little bit overtime, towards the end of the shift. So it was another one of those like 14, 16-hour shift kind of situations that we all remember from the pandemic. But what I didn't know then was that a lot more was injured than just me physically. I was already carrying years of secondary trauma, moral injury, sleep deprivation, cognitive dissonance, pain, constant, consistent, low humming anxiety, hypervigilance, a body that just wouldn't rest. And this moment, this particular code tipped all of it over. I think it was quite literally, physically, the breaking point. It was the first time I was forced to admit that I wasn't okay. Not just tired, not just overworked. I was actually hurting. I was physically hurting in a way that I couldn't ignore. I joked about my back initially, just like we all do when we have one of those really long shifts and your back is killing you. But I was terrified that the lightning bolts shooting down one leg, the paresthesia, the loss of muscle control were permanent. Then the breathless, chest-crushing, mind-spiraling hit. And something wild happened. I realized that all the research I'd been doing, all the studying I'd poured into nurse burnout and trauma and resilience for my degree was also about me. All those statistics, they had my name on them also. The pain I thought I was above, it was living in my own nervous system. I was the healer who needed healing, and that's when I had to decide what I was going to do with that information. That's when I realized that the fear I was feeling about admitting any of this, even while rehabilitating my injury, was real. There was no speaking about it. Even in the middle of the worst pandemic, even in the middle of so many nurses just cracking wide open about everything that we were experiencing during the pandemic, it was still centered on the tangible experiences of the pandemic. We hadn't yet really started talking about how injured we were before the pandemic ever hit. Like the absolute shutdown and refusal to admit what was happening to my therapist, the therapist I was so livid that I had to go to in the first place as part of workers' comp, the therapist that ever so kindly told me the truth as I indignantly explained multiple times that I would know if I was having panic attacks, that I would know if I was traumatized, right? If she ever hears this, just know that you and your otherworldly patients helped change the trajectory of my life. That year, I realized I had to cut the bullshit and had to do something about the horrendous stigma surrounding nurses' mental health struggles. I mean, I'd been researching this for a little while, and I knew that it was really meaningful to me. Last season, I kind of discussed what uncovering those statistics meant to me and how deeply it impacted me to see those numbers, to see the thousands of nurses responding to these statistics, and to realize that I was all over those statistics, that was also me. I really had to cut the bullshit. I had to cut the denial, and I had to look at just how deeply I was carrying the same injuries and for how long. Last season, we laid some groundwork. We got our feet wet, shared some incredible space with some badass healers. And this season, we're bringing it with our chest 10 toes down. I'm not playing with you. You are about to learn methods of reaching a state of actual grounding and clarity and self-awareness and cognizance that are grounded in science and don't come with no snake oil. It took me a long time. It took years of digging in to some research in areas that I didn't know existed, that I kept uncovering as I dug deeper and deeper and deeper. I kept looking at all of this research, and I kept looking at all of these, publications and news articles and blogs and statements and, even official statements from organizations and licensing boards and whatnot, all about all the buzzwords around resilience. And everybody, was just parroting all of these same things. But when you took the lid off, there wasn't anything there. However, when I started looking into actual therapeutic theories, not just nursing theories, but therapeutic ones, I started seeing these tangible applications geared specifically, of course, as they were designed by therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists and researchers to address the psychosomatic, the psychology, the psyche, and the physiology, the combined intersection of those, the sequelae from various trauma, from injury, from, even personality disorders, a lot of which have their origins in trauma. And those were incredible structures and framework to read and parse and understand, but they were in that domain. There was no real intersection with nursing. And so I kind of had to start at ground zero and really look at multiple theories and multiple approaches, and then look at nursing, the context of it, the basis of it, what we experience, what we're taught, how much of that is universal to us as a nurse, how much of that is specialty and field-based. And really, the more I looked at it, the more it doesn't matter what floor you're on or where you are. Nobody comes to see us because it's a good day. I tell every single one of my nursing classes that. And the trauma that we're exposed to, the secondary trauma, the primary trauma that we experience when we're assaulted, when, the family's emotions become our emotions. I mean, we care for our patients very deeply sometimes. And depending on the situation, depending on, the level of acuity, the level of trauma that's present, that can be primary trauma just as much as, workplace violence or us getting assaulted, or horizontal and lateral violence, bullying. Just all of the context of pretty much consistent, constant high levels of anxiety, high levels of stress, high levels of demand and expectation, and high levels of exposure to trauma. So looking at all of these things over the years, as I've been researching, I've gradually been putting these things in this container that is looking at it from the nurse outward, the context of nursing. And when it comes to this curriculum one day is going to be taught in nursing schools. Mark my words, because it's that important to our health, our well-being, our ability to survive and thrive professionally on our terms. Later on in the season, I may go more into my personal story of what happened in 2021. I've talked about it a lot in therapy. It's always interesting. I have the self-awareness and I utilize the skills in the RISE curriculum, and I can still feel the psychosomatic response that my body carries, albeit much less and much more manageable, even after all that therapy. Even after all of that work. The actual code itself was horrifically traumatic, as I'm sure most of you can attest to if you worked as a COVID frontline nurse during the pandemic. We'd never experienced anything like it. So, maybe later on in the season, I'll share some more about that. But that experience just really kind of cracked me wide open and forced me to realize I am what I'm researching. And the only way to find a way out of this is to create one, because there wasn't one. And that's what this curriculum is. This season is called Rise First for a reason. Because nurses like you, like me, we have been last on every list for far too long. And this season, we're flipping the script. We're going to put your health, your nervous system, and your joy at the center. You first. On my water bottle, I have one of the hashtags that the Ritual Nurse podcast uses all the time is hashtag Nurse First. And it's because the hashtags are obviously on social media, but I want them to be a way, kind of like, just a quiet little reminder every time you see it. You first. Nurse first. And we're going to stop chasing resilience as some kind of badge of honor and actually start building it from a place of emotional regulation and self-awareness and daily ritual, carving out that time, that special time and that special space for self-care. So let me introduce you to RISE, my new evidence-based trauma-informed framework created just for nurses. And RISE stands for Resilience, Insight, Strength, and Empowerment. And this isn't some fluffy buzzword program. It's a full curriculum that's backed by science. It's shaped by lived experience and research, and it's grounded in the hard truth that nurses are trained to ignore their own suffering for the sake of the job, for the sake of everyone else, for the sake of that altruistic lie that is held up as some kind of badge of honor, some unmeetable standard that nurses are supposed to reach, when the truth is we die trying. So not anymore. So season 2 of the Ritual Nurse podcast is going to alternate between these educational deep dives like the one we're doing today and guest episodes where real nurses, doulas, educators, therapists, executive professionals, healers tell the truth about what it means to survive the system and save yourself. And they elaborate more on the educational deep dive that preceded them in the 2 weeks prior. So if you're new here, welcome. You have an entire first season that you can binge and catch up on. I'm kind of jealous. And if you've been holding on, I see you. So in order to really let it sink in how serious I am about this, how not bullshit social media this is, I'm going to read to you the first part, just the first few pages of the actual curriculum. That's right. Your girl did not stutter. I am hundreds of pages and tens of thousands of words into this, and I cannot wait to share it with you all. So RISE, Resilience, Insight, Strength, and Empowerment, is a trauma-informed DBT-derived behavioral theory of nursing practice designed to restore emotional integrity, professional identity, and psychological safety to nurses operating in high acuity, ethically fraught, and emotionally unsustainable environments. The RISE theory redefines the role of the nurse not as a passive recipient of systemic harm, but as an active participant in their own recovery, using structured, evidence-based tools to create a sustainable practice. Developed in direct response to burnout, moral injury, and nurse attrition, RISE centers the nurse as the patient of the intervention, while equipping them with the language, rituals, and skills to return to themselves. So at its core, the RISE theory, it's really built on 4 interdependent pillars. The first one is resilience. This is not grit or stoicism or some bullshit badge or buzzword. This is ongoing capacity to metabolize the trauma around us and remain whole, not by compartmentalizing it, not by neutralizing it or anesthetizing it, but by having the self-awareness and the ability to emotionally regulate yourself while validating what you're going through. Insight, having a deepened self-awareness of emotional, physiological, and cognitive states under duress and afterwards. Strength, the alignment of inner fortitude with ethical clarity and boundary integrity. And empowerment, the reclaiming of agency through narrative reauthorship, role redefinition, and systems advocacy. These 4 pillars are operationalized across 6 categories of skill building. The first one is emotional regulation and grounding. The second is resilience and recovery. The third, communication and boundaries. The fourth, cognitive flexibility and decision-making. The fifth is systems navigation and professional identity. And the sixth is mindful practice and presence. Each category contains targeted behavioral skills that are inspired by many different theoretical bases, including DBT, trauma recovery models, somatic regulation science. The skills are delivered using a nurse-specific acronym-based format. It's easy for us to remember. We speak in acronyms all the time. That allows for immediate applicability in clinical settings under emotional strain. They have to be easy to remember, and it has to be easy to trigger when your cognitive overload is way past peak capacity. The theoretical underpinnings, the culmination, and not even just culmination, but ongoing research encapsulates the past 5 years of research and the ongoing research as this curriculum is rolling out in terms of refinement, applicability, engagement, and clarity. This is ongoing, just like any other evidence-based theory. It's constantly a work in progress because it has to be. If it's not living, it's not applicable. A lot of the theoretical underpinnings incorporate everything from narrative therapy like White and Epstein, neuroplasticity, Siegel, polyvagal theory, Porges, post-traumatic growth, Tedeschi and Calhoun, trauma-informed care, of course, Samsa, Hopper et al., and of course, one of the hugest eye-opening theories that I spent years researching, Linehan's DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy. Many of the approaches, the method of approach, the method of engagement and activation are so core to the ability to apply it in a trauma sense to the context that nurses live in. So the purpose of the theory, the RISE theory, exists to address a clinical and moral imperative, the internal collapse of the nursing workforce under the weight of trauma, moral distress, and unresolved grief. It recognizes that traditional self-care models are often superficial, unmeasured. They fail to meet the complex psychological needs of nurses. RISE fills that gap by offering structured, evidence-informed interventions, identity protective frameworks, real-time regulation skills, long-term recovery ritual, and language and tools to resist system-based dehumanization. Rather than teaching nurses to cope better, RISE teaches them to come back to life, to return to themselves as feeling, thinking, sacred beings in systems that often reduce them to clinical functionaries. The impact on resilience and recovery is huge. Through its integration of trauma psychology, somatic practice, behavioral science, and nursing identity theory, the RISE model cultivates several things. Emotional durability. Skills like trauma care and heart rest build capacity to identify, name, and metabolize distress before it crystallizes into burnout or depersonalization. Narrative reclamation. Tools like Now and Role guide nurses in reclaiming authorship of their professional identities, even after moral injury or collapse and ongoing context, ongoing secondary exposure to that. Ethical clarity. Interventions like BASE and STEP provide decision support that centers values over compliance, reducing distress linked to role conflict. presence and recovery. Skills like be here restore embodied presence and counter the dissociative states common in trauma-saturated environments. Outcomes from the RISE model include improved retention, emotional regulation, boundary, health, and role satisfaction. It transforms resilience from a buzzword into a clinically relevant, measurable skill set. RISE is not just a training. It's not a theory of pathology. It's a theory of return. Return to self, return to safety, return to the profession without abandoning your humanity. It offers nurses not just tools, but permission to feel, to pause, to actually heal. We know we're going to return to work the next day. We never know how much trauma we're going to experience that day. But if we have learned the ability to carve out that sacred space for our self-care, those rituals, and we have the skill sets to reground ourselves, to debrief, then we can maintain homeostasis. We can maintain our health, our sanity, our boundaries without incorporating and internalizing and crystallizing that trauma into our body systems. RISE invites the nurse to stop surviving and start practicing with clarity, capacity, and your sacredness intact. What's coming this fall is going to be so incredible, so crafted, so curated for you, for us, the most engaging and no shit impactful experiences we will share together as we go through this curriculum. All right. So let's pause. You already know it's a dance break. This is your invitation to breathe, to unclench your jaw, to remember that your body is not a machine. Go hydrate, drink water, shake it out, step into a little joy, even if it's just 60 seconds of movement. So pause here if you need to. We have an incredible segment coming up about somatic healing, somatic cognitive behavioral therapy for nurses, so you won't want to miss that. And of course, our favorite segment. So you don't need to earn a break. You already deserve it. All right, now that we've cracked open the door to resilience, let's talk about something most nurse training leaves out: your nervous system. Because healing doesn't just live in your mind, it's in your body. And something that I have been looking at and researching and just personally interested in is somatic cognitive behavioral therapy. So this is where somatic education comes in. Somatic just means of the body. Somatic practices help us reconnect with ourselves physically, especially when trauma, injury, burnout, chronic stress, anxiety have disconnected us from our own signals. Because the body basically takes a snapshot of that moment or series of moments in time where the trauma that we experience, the events that we experience, are so impactful. They cause such a physiological response in us that it's encapsulated, almost kind of like these god-awful memory capsules that we carry around in our cognition like ticking time bombs. that just routinely reactivate themselves when the triggers are present. You hear a code blue alarm. You hear a patient say a particular phrase, or you have a patient with a similar pathology, and you know what's coming. You know what's up ahead for this family, for that patient. Just all sorts of warning signs and signals that we basically, encapsulate and incorporate into lasting memory, into these snapshots that reactivate. And our physiology replays that memory along with all of the psychological feelings and impulses and neurotransmitters. All of that is activated at the same time. So, as an example, let me ask you this. Do you ever finish a shift and realize that you didn't pee, eat, take a full breath for 12 hours, and your jaw hurts because you didn't realize that you'd been clenching it the entire time and your shoulders are up near your ears? I don't know how many times I've sat down in my car after a shift and literally realized I had knots in my shoulders because they were up by my ears. My blood pressure had probably been, in the 130s over 90s for the past 6 hours, if not higher, depending on what I was dealing with. And I hadn't even realized it until everything around me subsided and I was forced to acknowledge the physical state I was in. Do you ever feel like your chest is tight and you just suddenly realized it, but you can't identify why? Or maybe, you get home, contemplate a frozen burrito or Taco Bell or something, and you crash after work. Not tired. It's like you're laying there and you're totally wired, but frozen. You're physically exhausted, but you have to take something to make yourself go to sleep after your shift, because it's either thoughts of the shift that you just had or thoughts of the shift waiting for you that are keeping your eyes wide open or keeping you doom scrolling for hours on end. You actually have to force yourself to shut down. So none of that's not just exhaustion. That's your nervous system trying to survive in absolute cognitive overdrive. So, little science drop. Your autonomic nervous system has two key players, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic, as we know, is fight, flight, or freeze. It's what keeps you moving during a code, a combative patient, an emergency, a crisis. The parasympathetic is rest and digest. That's healing. That's home. Here's the problem. We as nurses live in sympathetic override. We never make it back home. This is why somatic tools are non-negotiable. We don't just need more mental health days. We need a way back into our bodies. So I'm not a somatic cognitive behavioral therapist. I'm not a therapist. Some of the somatic therapy I've been practicing myself. The Workout Witch on Instagram is phenomenal, combining somatic therapies, yoga together to release those god-awful, horrid memory capsules, those time bombs hanging out in our psyche and our physiology through movement, through somatic therapy. And there is something that we can do, just kind of like a mini skill. Let's call it body. So the category of this one would be emotional regulation and grounding. So module 1 of the RISE curriculum. And let's say B stands for breathe. Take 3 slow, intentional belly breaths, focusing on the diaphragm and your abdomen rising, not your chest. Exhale longer than you inhale. O, orient. Look around the room. 3 colors, 3 sounds, and then come back to your diaphragm. Breathing in and out. D for drop in. Place a hand on your chest or abdomen. Feel the breath move your hand as you relax into that deep state. So let your shoulders drop down towards your diaphragm. And then yield. Let go of tension. Your jaw, your forehead, your ears, your neck, your shoulders, your feet, your hands. Soften your tongue, your fists. Unclench your jaw. So let's use that as body. Let's give that a little try. How do you use it? Bathroom break? Use body. Empty hallway? Use body. Right before you give report and handoff, use body. It takes 30 seconds. It gives you back an unbelievable amount of nervous system load. Offloads that cognitive overload. The more you practice this, the more your body remembers that it's safe to come home. And you can even, make some mantras around that. When you're doing it, it's safe to come home. Parasympathetic activation. Really telling your body what it needs to do and what it has permission to do. All right. So you've made it to the end of the episode. Hope you took notes on the skill sets and what's coming up for the RISE curriculum. But now, of course, it's time for our favorite segment, coffee, crystals, and divination. Because sometimes the most sacred thing you can do is pause on purpose. So as this is season 2, I have a special person here with me, Mr. Ritual Nurse himself. He's honestly always here with me, but this time he's going to hang out with us for the live card pulls. So I know it says coffee, crystals, and divination. Today's drink is not a coffee, but I am obsessed with the spiced mango sorbet from Waterloo. I've actually been drinking it this entire recording. I'm not sponsored by these people. I just love mango, tajin, antojitos, you name it. But this over ice with some electrolytes like the grapefruit salt by Element and some fresh lime, shut up. It's perfect for summer, perfect for the heat. I'm obsessed with it. I don't know how long it's going to be around. I found it at my Rayleigh's. It's called Spiced Mango Sorbet. It's interesting looking orange can. Oh, it has antojitos on it. Of course it does. Yeah, this is incredible just by itself, but really, really good the other way, especially with the electrolytes. So we're going to do our crystal prescription first. Same deck. I haven't changed them for season 2. I know I talked about it, but I'm too obsessed with these decks to change them, and I absolutely love them. I'm going to have you shuffle them.
Okay.
And then I usually pull one card for like the week prescription, but let's pull 2.
Okay. These are large cards.
Well, I know. But your hands are like twice the size of mine. So you don't like the mango, huh?
I do. As far as angry water, it's very good.
Yes, it is angry water. I forgot to mention that. It is angry water. But this one has more of, I don't know, this one just has more of a flavor. It's not like somebody yelled about antojitos like 3 states over.
Yeah.
There's the flavor to it. So, but it is angry. It is angry water.
It is. It is. And it is much better than many that we have tried. I'm enjoying the carbonated waters too. Trying to get rid of my bad habit of soda. I think I just currently need something that's more flavorful than.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole, spice up your drink, make your waters. As long as it's not soda or sugar laden, it's still water, it's still hydrating. And if that gets it in, I would rather have 30 ounces of carbonated water with, all the stuff that we put in it is 0 calorie anyways, than none at all. Or, 4 full octane sodas of something.
Yes, which
it's way better choice.
It is.
Can you believe it's season 2 already?
No, actually, this has been an amazing project to watch you do. It really is. All right, so let's see. You said 2 cards.
Yep.
Well, that one wants to come out,
right?
And that one. Let's see what those are.
So the first, what the fuck?
I don't know.
Ooh, sorry. Okay. Well, I mean, everybody knows this is not a non-spicy podcast. The first one you pulled is Manifest, and it's Malachite.
Malachite. I like Malachite.
Oh, Brennan.
I like Malachite.
And then Alignment and Morganite. I haven't pulled these before.
I don't think I know what Morganite
But
looks
manifest and alignment. Could that be more irrelevant?
These cards have always been in tune with what you're talking about.
Highly. Okay, let's find them.
Sneak over and grab my phone real quick. I want to know what Morganite looks like.
Yeah, the actual Morganite. On the image, it's kind of a copper light carnelian color. Okay, so malachite stands for manifest. It's manifestation, prosperity, transformation. This card is here to bring you a wealth of abundance and prosperity. Surrender your fears, doubts, and worries to the cosmos, knowing that the universe has your back and is aligning everything in your favor. Embrace the sun's energy as a reminder that each day brings new opportunities for growth and transformation, and that you are destined to shine bright like the sun itself. So get ready to manifest and trust that the universe has already written your success story in the stars. That's freaking incredible.
I like a malachite stone with a lot of contrast to it.
Yeah.
I like malachite.
Okay.
Morganite looks...
those look like sunstones.
They look a little bit like a topaz.
Yeah, they do. It looks like a topaz or a sunstone.
Almost clear with a touch of pink, all the way to... It's not quite amber. It's more... It's like a yellow topaz.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. That's really pretty.
What is it?
So, Morganite, alignment, emotional balance, harmony, and compassion. Embark on a cosmic journey of alignment with Morganite, where finding harmony means syncing up with the planetary rhythms of the universe. Just as this crystal radiates love and compassion, you too can attune your spirit to the harmonious alignment of the planets. Surrender to the universal flow and allow its gentle guidance to lead you to emotional balance in your true alignment. I just eyeballed him like, seriously? This, again, is so wildly, completely accurate. That's nuts. Have I told you how much I love these cards?
They're
and they're sassy. This is the tarot deck that Brennan and I were drawing from that one day, and it called me a peasant. She still reminds me of that and tells me to stop acting like a peasant and remember that I'm a queen. Alrighty. So you're gonna shuffle the tarot deck version.
All right. Let's see what we got.
Okay. So we're gonna draw one for this week's divination and one for season 2.
This is funny.
Why?
Just because I can handle these cards.
Right. You're shuffling a lot faster than I do when I pull live on the podcast.
Such big cards, and this is just me flipping them. I'm not even shuffling them yet. I'm just mixing them up.
I can't shuffle them like you can because they're big and my hands aren't big enough. And I have big hands for a chick, by the way.
And I can shuffle them like cards like this. But I'm just trying to be very careful with them because they're beautiful cards.
Yeah, I am really careful with the edge of them. But yeah, your hands are like twice the size of mine.
Well, I'm not a small guy.
Nope.
All right. Let's give them 3 of those. Number 2. Oh, that was loud.
Yeah, that's okay.
Hopefully the audio caps that out. And I didn't just startle anybody to drive off the road on their way home or something, because that was really, really loud in here.
Yeah, it was.
All right.
Your audio might be a little low just because I'm sitting closer to the microphone.
Number 3. Yeah, and I should probably speak up a little bit. I'm not used to being on mic like this. Lean in a little bit here. Okay, so 3 good shuffles and a bunch of mixing. We will cut. Take the card on top.
Okay. 5 of Wands. Oh, Septarian. It's the dragon egg looking ones.
And there's the other one.
6 of Swords. Tanzanite. Ooh, all swords. My. Oh, no. 5 of Wands and 6 of Swords. Okay. Those are swords. I want wands first. Okay, 5 of Wands. Ooh, conflict, competition, and tension. Septarian signifies grounding, strength, and understanding. This card indicates that some type of conflict or challenge may be happening with others in your life right now. Even if you don't agree with what they have to say, try to take a moment to be more understanding and listen. See this as an opportunity to rise above and be the bigger person. You have the strength to resolve this. To me, this card, especially for this week, signifies the start, or if you listened to season 1, the utilization of all of the self-awareness rituals that we kind of set up in terms of emotional grounding, because things are getting spicy out there. Things are getting real spicy out there. So I think for a lot of us, that is compounding everything that we're dealing with as healthcare professionals, because normally healthcare, normally most of the trauma stays in our work clothes, in our job, and then bleeds over into our real life, just how we carry it around physically. Now, when we leave work, a lot of us, depending on where you're listening to this, because it is in 120 cities now worldwide, may not be in the United States where we are. So yeah, it's a little spicy around here.
It's a little spicy around here. It is. And I'm not entirely sure how it is for folks around the globe, but as far as all the woo-woo stuff that we've talked about with our friends that know the astrology and everything, it's spicy for everybody right now. There's a lot happening.
There is.
I feel it in my field too, and I'm not in medicine.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not an astrology guru whatsoever. So we usually listen to our friends and kind of, nod and listen along. And I find it really interesting. It's just not my wheelhouse, but there's been a lot of, I guess, planetary alignment.
There are lots of things moving is what I'm gathering from it, because I'm not exceptionally into it or knowledgeable about it as well, but we are surrounded by people who are.
That's true.
And listening to them discuss it, there's a lot in motion for a lot of people right now.
And that sounds true. So the 6 of Swords signifies transition, moving on, and change. And Tanzanite is transformation, intuition, and communication. It's time to move on and spread your wings. You may be in the middle of a personal transformation, trying to leave behind a painful situation and heal your wounds. This is the card you drew for our season.
Oh.
Which is the RISE curriculum, which, okay, totally irrelevant. It's time to move on and spread your wings. You may be in the middle of a personal transformation, trying to leave behind a painful situation and heal your wounds. Despite your disappointment, letting go is vital to move forward and evolve. Let not only your previous knowledge guide you, but your intuition as well. Hope lies ahead. That couldn't be more accurate for the purpose of the RISE curriculum. These are incredible. I'm going to take pictures of them on my lovely
and that also sounds like
background.
The inevitable conflict that's going to come from beginning self-care and enforcing your own boundaries.
Yeah.
Change and transition is going to come. Change never comes without some kind of resistance or conflict. Otherwise, it's not change.
Absolutely.
So
if it's easy, everyone would just do it.
Well, and if it's easy, it's not change.
Right.
By definition, there needs to be resistance, not necessarily conflict, but change does not happen organically. Change is effort.
Correct. Even in physics.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I'm going to post these pictures on our socials. And that is it for our launch episode for the beginning of season 2 and our format. I know. I can't believe it's season. I can't believe I have a full season of I can remember talking about this a year ago, 2 years ago, as if it was I don't know, not a material thing, not a, I want to do a podcast, or a podcast would be fun. That would be cool to do. But to actually have it a full season done already. And it's 20 episodes, 20 or 21 episodes.
20, it was 20, somewhere between 20 and 22. I lost count.
Yeah. Incredible. I think this season is going to be maybe 13 or 14 because of the format.
Well, we need to set that. I don't know that we really had that plan to start with. So we definitely need to set what the seasons are, because we just sort of went with it. And then we got to the point a month or so ago, and I'm like, we might want to.
Yeah, we might want to have a season. Right. Yeah. But the format of the show, it's bi-weekly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think will work really well in terms of the educational episode and the information, and then the special guest speaker 2 weeks later that can elaborate or enhance the education that preceded them and also continue to educate us in, their chosen field. We have an ethicist, a therapist, HR executive, nurses. We have some incredible guest speakers lined up, and it's going to be, I think,
it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. The curriculum itself is coming this fall. That's going to be an incredible launch. I may or may not do just a special one-off episode around the launch of the curriculum. We'll have to see how that goes with my clinical hours and my own schedule. Mm-hmm. Your girl is going through it. Oh my goodness. But this is just the beginning of the season, and we have so much more ahead of us. I'm seriously excited about it. It's all about building from the bones up. You have survived a lot, and now it is time to rise. If this episode helped you, share it. That is the greatest thing that you can do for our podcast, is to share it. The goal is to reach as many nurses as humanly possible, and we are millions and millions strong. And without it being shared, without it being passed on word of mouth, podcasting doesn't have an algorithm. It's not like social media. It doesn't have an algorithm. You sharing it word of mouth, you passing it along, you sending an episode to somebody, texting, the Apple podcast link or the Spotify podcast link or wherever you pod, wherever you hear us, because we're on all major platforms, is literally how we get spread to all the nurses out there that we possibly can. The goal is to reach as many nurses as possible, because all of us go through this. And it's not just nurses, other healthcare professionals. If you have therapists in your life, doctors in your life, all healthcare professionals, first responders, oh my gosh, everything that's in these podcasts can apply directly to them because they are in the trenches with us. So please, if you do nothing else this week with the Ritual Nurse podcast besides enjoy it and practice it, share it. If you know a nurse, love a nurse, are a nurse, then this is the podcast for you. Check the show notes. We usually have free downloads in the show notes. On the website, there is a free download for a copy of the list. If you don't know what the list is, if you scroll back in episode or season 1, there is an episode that goes over the list when we launched it. It's an incredible matrix to use to lower cognitive load and thereby lowering your cortisol, lowering your anxiety, lowering your stress. New items hit the shop all the time. We have stickers, stunning candles, more totes, t-shirts, some wildly badass nursing brains are headed your way. We're making daily self-care an aesthetic to crave. So why not be over the top about it? Like, dopamine is a real scarcity nowadays, and our rituals to self, carving out that time, making a ritual of it, is exactly what we need to replenish it. So I will see you in 2 weeks with our first guest of the season, and trust me, you don't want to miss them. So until next time, I love your face. Thanks for listening to the Ritual Nurse podcast. Head to tcth.org for classes, tools, and so much more. Until next time, love your faces.